All right, I will say good morning. A beautiful, beautiful daf ahead of us today. Today's daf is Lamed Daled 34, and we are picking up on Lamed Gimel Amud Beis 33b, and we are picking up in the wide lines, fourth wide line down, or 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 lines up from the bottom. Our shir this morning is dedicated by our Talmud Torah sponsors to the month of Shvat, Eden Faith Wolf, in memory of Faith's mother, Nessa Bas Velva Zichrono Livracha, Bracha Strimber, in memory of her husband, Avram Ben Kalman Eliezer Halevi. Our week of learning is dedicated by an anonymous sponsor in the merit of a Refuah Shalema for Kalman Leib Ben Ginendel MS and Nechama Tamar Bas Bracha Sarah. Our week of learning is also dedicated by Rabbi Mrs. Ziffer for the commemoration of the yahrzeit of Rabbi Ziffer's mother, Rachel Bas Mary Yehuda Leba Cohen. Our day of learning today is dedicated by Dr. Alan Oshinsky and his mother Irina Oshinsky in memory of their father and husband Tzvi Hirsch Ben Shmuel on the occasion of his yahrzeit. And the day of learning today is also dedicated by my parents, should live and be well, in commemoration of my grandmother's yahrzeit, Freida Bas Moshe Yosef Zichrono Livracha. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, all of the neshamas will have an aliyah, and those who require a refuah will have one together with Kol Cholei Yisrael. And also with that, let us begin. So we'll say, so we're picking up. Remember again, the Mishnah said very beautifully, spoke about this idea of if a person says Al kan sipur yagir rachamecha, that literally again on the wings of birds, so your compassion should come. Mishaskeno, so we stop, we silence him. So we ended off in yesterday's daf with a discussion. Why is that? So two opinions. One says because matal kinam amasa bereshis, you're creating jealousy, right? Or animosity between different creations. That Kadosh Baruch Hu has more compassion on some, less compassion on others. Others say that no, what you're doing is you're infusing reasons into God's mitzvos, but ultimately, again, Kadosh Baruch Hu's mitzvos are gezeros. They are decrees. They always say, so just because this was at the end of the shir, obviously, Kadosh Baruch Hu's mitzvos have reasons. Everything has a reason. The difference is not everything has a reason that is comprehensible to us. And therefore, again, if we start making our mitzvah observance dependent on intellect and reason, if something doesn't appeal to my intellect or reason, then I'll simply stop doing it. Therefore, there's a wisdom to making HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mitzvos like gezeros. This is what God commands me to do, and therefore I do it. So the Gemara tells a story. There's so much to say on this piece, because this concept of making HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mitzvos gezeros is a concept also of emuna pshuta, of just a simple faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That sometimes there's something magnificent and beautiful and just wondrous for just following HaKadosh Baruch Hu because He said so. Right? This is the mitzvah that He gave me. I understand it. I don't understand it. There's a reason. There's not a reason. At the end of the day, does it really even matter? It goes back to what we just learned. If I love HaKadosh Baruch Hu and I know that He loves me, if He asks me to do something, then of course I just simply find it in my heart to do it. I want to do it. So whether there's a reason that appeals to me or doesn't appeal to me, to a certain degree becomes absolutely irrelevant in a relationship of love. It's truly beautiful. So Gemara tells us, right? So say there was an individual who was davening in front of Rabbah. And he said in the Shemona Esrei, Chadosh Baruch Hu, you had compassion on the bird's nest, you should have compassion upon us. Amar Rabba, Kama Yada right? So Rabba gives him a shkoyach. What a beautiful tefillah, right? How much you know how to appease your Creator. Amalei Abayas standing there. I baham shaskin also tanan. But I learned in the Mishnah, if a person says such a thing, that we silence him. To which the Gemara says, "Rabba nami lechadude la'abayehu debai." So you see this in a couple of different places, where Rabba also knew that this was the halacha. He was testing Abaye, right? He wanted to see if Abaye was paying attention in shir or not. So therefore, again, he wanted to. So he said, "Oh, nice job," to see if Abaye would object. Well, say there was another individual, another shliach tzibur, who was davening in front of Rabbi Chanina, and he said in his Chazar Sashatz, Amar, Hakel, Hagodol, Hagibar, Vahanora, Ha'adir, Vaha'azuz, Vaha'yiroi, Vaha'chazak, Vaha'amitz, Vaha'vadai, Vaha'nichbad. So we'll say, so this guy is mamish going on, right? He's going on a ton of different praises for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Himtin Lo, Ad Desiyim. So Rabbi Chanina waited for him to finish. Ki Siyim, when he finished, Amar le saimitinu lekulu shvacha dimarach. Tell me, did you finish? Right? Did you get everything? Right? Did you said everything? So obviously Rabbi Chanina was being a little bit facetious in this, and he was saying, "Are you sure you captured all of the praise? After all, lamali kuli hai. Why did you decide to be so verbose? Ha'anan hani tlas da'amrinon ilav da'amrinu Moshe Rabbeinu ba'araisa va'ansu ashnei knesses hagdolah v'taknina b'tfila lo havinon yecholin l'meimer lahu va'at amrit kulihai." So Rabbi Chanina said to this individual, he said, remember, the only reason we say gadol, gibor, and nora, the reason we use those three adjectives and descriptions are because Moshe Rabbeinu used them for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Torah, and the Anshe Knesses HaGedolah figured if Moshe used it, then we could incorporate it as part of formal prayer. But to go ahead and add on more to that, actually, I will say, is actually makes things worse. In other words, I will say, here's what we know: one cannot capture the totality of the praise for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? God transcends our lexicon. So therefore, there are no words that can capture the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, in reality, you shouldn't say anything at all. Right? You shouldn't say, because sometimes insufficient praise is worse than no praise. So ideally, we would maybe not even say anything. But we're not going to do that. So what do? We use the wording of Moshe Rabbeinu. But we don't add anything onto that, because to add onto that ultimately, again, actually highlights the deficiency in our ability to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Gemara says, "Va'at amret kulihai," and yet you went on and you said all of this. Mashal Malach Basar Adam. So Rabbi Chanina gave an example. He said, "I'll give you a mashal. Shahayilu elef alafim dinari zav." This is comparable, ultimately, again, to a king who was fabulously wealthy. V'haya mekalsin osa b'shal kesef. So I say, can you imagine you go over to a person who's very wealthy, right? You say, Bill Gates is comfortable. He's comfortable. Baruch Hashem, he makes a living. Right? So we'll say, that's ridiculous, right? That doesn't make any sense. So you go over to a king who has all the gold in the world, and you say, you know what? I heard he has a couple of nice pieces of silver. Right? So we'll say, you're diminishing the greatness of his wealth. So really, to begin to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu with our words and our adjectives and our descriptions always falls short. So therefore, all we use is what Moshe Rabbeinu used. To add on to that, ultimately diminishes the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I will say, just so you understand what we're talking about over here, when you're talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you're talking to God, you could say whatever you want. They're talking about as part of formal prayer. Right? So as part of formal prayer, we only include the praises of Moshe Rabbeinu. We don't start adding on our own stuff. In your personal supplications to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of course, you could say whatever it is that you want to say. Rabbi Chanina, say a very beautiful Gemara. Rabbi Chanina says, everything is in the hands of heaven with the exception of Yiras Shamayim. Right? Everything is in the hands of heaven with the exception of Yiras Shamayim. So the Gemara says, so we'll say, remember again, this is the famous Gemara. It appears actually here, he quotes it. Appears in Megillah, also in Nida. We saw this in Nida in a bit more of an expanded form, but the Gemara says everything is in the hands of heaven. Remember in Maseches Nida, this is the discussion where the Malach comes with the tipa, the Malach comes with the fetus before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, what's going to be with this fetus? Right? Gibar, Chalash, Ani, Ashir, Chacham, Tipesh, Aruch, Gutz, but doesn't ask Chacham Tzaddik. Right? Doesn't ask, is it going to be righteous or not righteous? And the reason that the Gemara says is because everything is in the hands of heaven except for the spiritual quality of who you are. If you're going to be a tzaddik or if you're going to be a rasha, that's up to you. So because Moshe Rabbeinu says to Klal Yisrael, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu ask of you? He only asks one thing of you, which is what? To fear him and to revere him, which means HaKadosh Baruch Hu only asks of you to become a tzaddik. That's the only thing you control. Tall or short, smart or wise, rich or poor. Hey, that's all up to God. The one thing you determine is if you're going to be a tzaddik or a rasha. So the Gemara says, Atu Yiras Shamayim Milsal Zutrasihi. Tell me, is Yiras Shamayim, is having fear of heaven, being a tzaddik, is that something small? V'am Rabbi Chanina Mishra B'Shimon Yochai. Ein lo la'akadosh baruch hu v'beis kinazov ela otza shiras shamayim shnei amar Yiras Hashemi otzara. The thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu values most, the thing that he keeps in his treasure house, is our Yiras Shamayim, is our fear and reverence of Him. So you see that fear and reverence of God is a big thing. Yet Moshe Rabbeinu seems to be minimizing it, right? Moshe Rabbeinu says, all you have to do is cultivate a fear and reverence of God, and God does everything else. To which the Gemara says, in legabe Moshe milsa zotrasi. For Moshe Rabbeinu, the cultivation of a profound sense of Yiras Shamayim was a small thing. The Gemara says, the Gemara gives an example. Mashallah adam shemavak shemenu kli gadol v'yeshlo doma alav kikli katan. Katan ve'enlo doma alav kikli gadol. Rabbi Chanina says it's like a mashal. What's the mashal? A mashal for a person who someone requests of him a large utensil. If the person possesses a large utensil, then it's no big deal. If he doesn't possess the large utensil, then ultimately again, if he possesses the large utensil, then it's like a small utensil, meaning if it's something that he already has, then it's not considered to be such a big deal. But if it's something that he doesn't have, then ultimately, again, it's considered a big deal. So the Gemara seems to be answering that Moshe Rabbeinu seemingly minimizes the difficulty or the challenge in acquiring true Yiras Hashem, a true reverence, love, connection, righteousness. Why? Because he had it. So we'll say, so the Baal HaTanya says something quite beautiful. The Baal HaTanya says, okay, but the Gemara is not answering the question. Moshe Rabbeinu is not talking to himself, right? Moshe Rabbeinu is talking to us. So it's very nice that for Moshe Rabbeinu, Yiras Shamayim is not a big deal, right? But for us, it is a big deal. And Moshe Rabbeinu is giving us a message. So we'll say, so what's the pshat? Ultimately, so the Baal HaTanya says something absolutely amazing. The Baal HaTanya says that he says within every, see, I'm going to read to you just part of it. He says, B'chol dar v'adar, yardin nitzotzin mi nishmas Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom, u'mislabshim beguf v'nefesh shachach me'adar eni ha'edus. So we'll say, he says something absolutely amazing. The Baal HaTanya posits, and again, I don't know if this is his own idea or he's quoting it from somewhere else, this idea that within every single person is a little bit of Moshe Rabbeinu. That when Moshe Rabbeinu became our Rebbe, when he gave us the Torah, there's a connection between a Rebbe and a Talmud that becomes an incredibly unalterable bond. When Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the Torah, there was a little piece of him that became embedded inside of us. Each of us carries around a little bit of Moshe Rabbeinu. So because of that, says the Baal HaTanya, when Moshe Rabbeinu says, yes, Yiras Shamayim is easy for me. So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying to us, if it's easy for me, then it could be easy for you as well. Easy in quotations, right? Why? Because there's a little piece of me, ultimately, again, that is embedded in your Rebbe. The Satmar Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, actually brings us up a fascinating idea. The Shulchan Aruch Paskins in Yaradeya, that if a mother can't nurse her child, and they have to hire a wet nurse, so ideally it is better to hire a Jewish woman to nurse a Jewish child. And one should, if possible, one should not hire a Gentile woman to nurse a Jewish child. Where does the halacha glean this concept from? Where does it glean it from? Moshe Rabbeinu. That when Bas Paro had to hire a wet nurse, she hired a Jewish woman, and the Gemara says, Pasha asid ledabre mashchina, the mouth that ultimately again will speak with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, should nurse from a Jewish mother. So the Satmar Rebbe says, I don't understand. That was by Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was going to speak with the Shechina, right? That's why he nursed from a Jewish woman. But ultimately, again, why would the halacha bring this as a halacha for everyone else? Says the Satmar Rebbe, because you see why? Every person has the ability to be a Moshe Rabbeinu. Right? The halacha says every single person has the capacity, the potential, and the ability to be a Moshe Rabbeinu. So I always saw this idea by the Satmar Rebbe is a beautiful one. The Baal HaTanya says it's not just the pshat that I have the ability to be a Moshe Rabbeinu. There's a little spark of Moshe Rabbeinu inside of me. There's a spark of Moshe Rabbeinu inside of each of us. So just like Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to the Shechina, just like Moshe Rabbeinu took himself from the ordinary, made himself extraordinary, all of us have the ability to do so as well. Quite incredible. So the Gemara goes weiter. Modim mishaskin also. If he says modim twice, ultimately again we silence him. Says the Gemara, Am Rabbi Zera, Kala Omer Shma Shma, Ke Omer modim dami. Whoever says Shma twice, It's as if you said modim, modim. So the Gemara says, is that shra korei shma v'kofla harei ze meguna? If a person goes ahead and repeats shma, says shma v'kofla, means repeats it, it's a disgusting practice. They both say meguna hu dahavi shtuki lo mishtakinon. So we'll say it's not nice, but ultimately it doesn't say that we silence him. So we'll say, so which one is it? Is it something that's meguna, not nice, or do we silence him? So the Gemara says, lo kash hadamar milsa milsa v'tani la hadamar psuka psuka v'tani la. So we'll say everything depends on what you did. If you went ahead and you repeated each word, so that is meguna. That's just not a nice way to say shema. It looks like you're not taking shema seriously. But it doesn't get to the point of where you'd have to silence someone. But I will say, if you say each pasuk and repeat each pasuk, then what's the concern? The concern is it looks like you're potentially saying it to two different gods. So the moment that it looks like you're praying to two different gods, chas v'shalom, is the moment ultimately that mishaskino, so that will silence you. So if you repeat every word, it's meguna. It doesn't look nice. It doesn't look nice. You're disparaging Shema. But if you repeat every pasuk, that's when it will silence you, because it looks like you're worshiping more than one God. V'tani, as the Gemara says, this is incredible. Maybe the reason he's repeating it is because at first he didn't have kavana, then he decided to have kavana. So Amarlei, top of Lamedalid, Chavrusa klape shmaya mi'ika. So he said, tell me, is God your chavrusa? Mi'ika, so the Gemara says, Ilo kivein daita meikara, machinale b'mar pasta dinafcha ad mechavein daiti. So we'll say, the Gemara finds it incredulous that you would daven without kavana, right? How could it, if you don't have kavana, then don't open your mouth, right? If you don't have kavana, how are you davening? So a person doesn't have kavana, literally, we'll hit him with the blacksmith's hammer until he has kavana. Okay, good. I just want to say something if that works, but Lamaisa, you understand, I'm sure it's a metaphor. Right? But the idea of what being that Lamaisa, it's an incredible insight. The Gemara says that I have to check myself for kavana before I start davening. So the notion ultimately, again, of beginning to daven without kavana, says the Gemara can't be. Therefore, if we see a person repeating Shema, then at the end of the day, if he's repeating every word, that's meguna. If he's repeating every pasuk, then that's where it becomes a bit more significant, and mishaskin also. We do not take into account the fact that maybe he didn't have kavana, because we assume that people know better. They know ultimately, again, that make sure that you have kavana before you begin davening. Good. Mishnah. Ha'omer yivarchucha tovim arezeh darki minos. So we'll say an incredible Mishnah. Someone who says, we'll say, now remember, these are all different praises that people would offer up to God. Person says, literally, again, the tovim, the good people should bless you. So we'll say what this makes it sound like is, only the tzaddikim have an obligation to bless HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Risha'im do not. Harei darki minos. So this is heresy. Everyone has an obligation to bless God, right? The fact that some do and some don't, that's a person's individual decision. But lamaisa, every person has an obligation to bless HaKadosh Baruch Hu. However, if somebody's davening for the Amid, a chazan, and he makes a mistake, ya'avar achar tachtov. So we'll say interesting halacha. So we're talking about over here, where the Shliach Tzibur made a mistake and can't continue. So at this point in time, we need someone else to come in and to fill in. V'lo yehi sarvan ba'osa shah. Interesting, we're going to discuss that. Normally, when you're asked to daven, you have to refuse a little bit. Right? Refuse a little bit. Sarvan means you have to delay. You have to delay your acceptance. That is true except when the chazan made a mistake in the middle and needs to be replaced. In that moment, when you're asked, you must answer the call. So the Gemara said, if you're the replacement chazan, from where do you start? Ultimately, again, you begin literally from the beginning of the bracha where the previous Shliach Tzibor made his mistake. If you look at Rashi, Rashi says, Mitchilas habracha sheta'azeh, im dileg echa min habrachos v'amar achar zve'ini yodea lashuv v'lachos sidro yaschila over tachtav osa bracha shetileg zeh. So we'll say, so remember again, you have to appreciate what's happening over here. We're talking about a day, we're talking about a time before printed Sidurim, which means the Chazan is davening b'alpeh, he's davening by heart. So he's davening, right? Let's say Chazar Sashatz or whatever it is. He messes something up, and he just can't get back his rhythm. It happens, right? It happens even when the Chazan has a siddur, right? So again, he misses the bracha, and he just can't get back in the rhythm. And then what would happen over there? We take him, right? We take him out. I mean, not we take him out. You understand? We replace him, right? We replace him. We bring in another Chazan. Ultimately, again, that Chazan begins from the bracha that the previous Chazan omitted, that he omitted. So we'll say, so he picks up. So literally he's picking up in the middle of Chazar Sashatz. Right? He doesn't have to repeat all over again. He picks up in the middle of Chazar Sashatz. However, lifnei ateva lo ya'ane amen achar hakohanim mipnei atiruf. Sooner we'll say the person ultimately again who's going ahead, the chazan does not go ahead and answer amen after duchening of kohanim. Why not? Because we're concerned that he's going to get confused, right? Remember again, we need the chazan, we need the shots to keep his concentration. So if he answers amen after the birchas kohanim, we're nervous he's going to get confused. Vim ein sham kohen alahu lo yisas kapov. Similarly, if the chazan is the only kohen, he doesn't duchen. He doesn't duchen, right? Because again, I will say, what's the concern? The concern is confusion and causing him to lose his place. However, again, if he's confident that lamaisa what? That lamaisa he knows how to go ahead and duchen and go right back to his place, then ultimately, again, we allow him to duchen. Interesting halacha. We'll say it's a very interesting halacha. So now we're going to tell a little bit about shliach tzibur etiquette. However, lifnei ateva tzarich l'sariv. We'll say if someone is asked to daven for the amid, they at first, l'sariv means to be a bit reticent. To be a bit reticent. If a person just says yes, then dome l'tavshel she'in bo melach. He's like a cooked dish that doesn't have salt. In other words, there's a little bit of a lacking of flavor. So we'll say the idea being, why do you have to refuse a little bit at first? It's a din of humility. It's a din of humility that if a person jumps at the opportunity, it could appear as a bit arrogant, that a person thinks that they're deserving of davening for the Yom. Therefore, the halacha says, even though you know you're going to say yes, but say, remember again, this is a bit contrived and staged. I know I'm going to say yes, but lamaisa again, there's a concept ultimately again of approaching the Amud with a bit of humility. I'm not sure. Maybe you could find someone else. So you refuse a little bit. Here's the other piece. But if you refuse too much, then what? Then ultimately, you know what you're like? You're like a dish that has too much salt. I will say this is an incredible yisod, right? You see, if a person is asked to daven, so that means that tzibur needs you. If the tzibur needs you, you have to approach it with a bit of humility. But at the end of the day, to say no and to refuse, then I will say that's arrogance in and of itself. Because then that's a person saying, the gift is mine, and I choose how to use it. Person knows how to daven, has the ability to do so. It's not your gift. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's gift that He's given to you. And He's given it to you for one reason and one reason only. Not to sing in the shower, right? Not to go ahead and just, entertain yourself, or not to be used in other ways. But Rabbi say, at the end of the day, to inspire others. So a person has that koach, they're obligated to use. So you see this incredible balance between, on one hand, the need to approach the Amud with incredible humility, but at the same time to recognize that when you are called upon to do something for the tzibur, you must always find a way to answer that call. So we'll say, so what's the proper protocol for this refusal? That on one hand, it kind of emotes the right kind of humility, but at the same time, does not appear to be arrogant. So Pam Rishoni Yisari, the first time you're asked, person should politely resist. Shnia Mahavhev. The second time you're asked, so I will say Mahavhev. Rashi says Mahavhev kilomar mazmin atzmo kimo nin lamo. You move around in your chair a little bit, right? You move around in your chair, ready to get up. And Shlishis poshet es raglav yori. The third time you're asked, you get up and you go. Tanan Abanan. Shlosha ruban kasha miutan yafa. We will say there are three things that too much of it is not good, but a little bit of it is helpful. And what are they? Sa'ar, umelach, v'sarvanos. That's a very interesting list. So sa'ar, yeast, melach, salt, and sarvanos, the right balance of refusal, right? Of being a bit reticent. So I will say, so the right amount of yeast is good for your dish, right? The right amount of salt is good for your dish. And the right amount of kind of reticent refusal is good for your humility. Too little of it could appear arrogant. Too much of it could appear arrogant. The exact right amount, Shabbos say, is an incredible yesod in general. That sometimes we're asked to do things, right? And sometimes we just don't want to do it, or maybe we feel unworthy. So there is an element to sometimes being a bit reticent, but the Shliach Tzibur is the paradigm. When you are asked to do something for whatever you want to call it, the klal, the kehila, the tzibur, the community, your answer always has to be, in some way, shape, or form, yes. If I'm asked to do something for the greater good, then how could I ever refuse such an opportunity like that? How you approach that, right? And what manner you should approach it in. So that's where the sarvanus comes in, that a person has to make sure that they're humble in their acceptance, but doesn't ultimately, again, come across as arrogant either. Chas v'shalom. Amar Rav Huna, Ta b'shalosh rishonos. So we'll say now that we're talking a little bit about over here regarding mistakes. Amar Rav Huna, Ta b'shalosh rishonos chos l'rosh. Shabbos says we're going to see Shmona Esrei is comprised of 3 units, right? There's the first 3 brachos, the middle brachos, and the last 3 brachos. Therefore, Rav Huna says, if you made a mistake in the first 3 brachos, chozer l'rosh. You go back to the beginning of the first 3 brachos. B'emtsayos chozer la'atachonein. If you make a mistake in the middle brachos, you go back to atachonein, which is the first of the supplicatory middle brachos. B'achronos. If you make a mistake by the end brachos, chozer la'avoda. You go back to modim. Rav Asi Amar, emtsayos ein lahen seder. Rav Asi says, no, the middle brachos have no particular order. If you look at Rashi, therefore Rashi's Eilan Seder, ve'im dileg bracha achos, ve'achar kach niskar ba, omra af shelo b'mkoah. So I'll say this is very interesting. In Rav Huna's model, everything is a unit. And whenever you make a mistake in a unit, what do? You go back to the beginning of the unit. Now I'll say, bepashtos, as we're going to see, what that really means is you don't know where you made the mistake. That's really what it's saying over here. You're not sure where you made the mistake. But again, we'll just read it as Pashtus. Rav Shesha says, interestingly enough, that Lamaisa, the middle brachos don't have an order. And therefore, if you make a mistake in the middle brachos, then what? You just simply go back to where you insert, his mistake is where you omitted a bracha. You just insert that bracha anywhere in the middle and continue on. Maser Rav Sheshas, Mehechanu Chozer, Sheshesh is the Shaila, the Brisa said before, when the Shliach Tzibur makes a mistake and the replacement Shliach Tzibur comes up, where does the replacement begin from? Mitchilas HaBracha Shetal Zeh. Here begins from the bracha where the previous Shliach Tzibur made a mistake. So we'll say, what do you see from here? That when the mistake is made, you don't have to go back to the beginning of the unit. Rather, what do you have to do? Go back to the beginning of the bracha. Tiyufta de Rav Huna. This seems to refute the position of Rav Huna. Amar Rav Huna, emtsayos kula chada birchasa ninu. Rav Huna will say the middle brachos are all viewed as one big bracha. And therefore, again, when the Mishnah said you go back to the beginning of the bracha that you made the mistake in fact, Rav Huna says, what does that mean? You go back to atachonim la'adam das, the beginning of that unit of brachos. Amar Rav Yehuda, the odem al yishal adam tzrachav lo b'shalosh rishonos lo b'shalosh achronos ela b'emtsayos. Rav Yehuda says as follows: a person should not go ahead and ask his supplications in the first 3 brachos and in the last 3 brachos, but rather again only in the middle brachos. So we'll say we don't insert supplications in the middle or in the beginning or end of Shemona Esrei, but rather only in the middle brachos. The first 3 brachos, remember again, Shemona Esrei is modeled like a servant coming to ask something from his master. So in the first 3 brachos, the servant praises the master before he lodges the request. The middle brachos are like the servant asking, right, what he wants from his master. The last brachos are comparable to a servant who received something from his master and therefore expresses gratitude. So the first 3 brachos, praise from the eved to the master who wants something from the master. The middle brachos is the actual ask, right, or are the asks, right, things that I want, and then the last 3 brachos are the gratitude for feeling confident that I'm going to receive what I ask for. The Gemara says, so I'll just point out something very interesting to you. If you look at the bottom Tosas says, so also here the Gemara develops the model. We don't ask for things in the first 3 brachos or the last 3 brachos, only in the middle brachos. So Tosas just points out something very interesting. They will say, when do we say that we don't make requests in the first 3 or last 3 brachos? That's only individual requests. Communal requests we do make. Rabbi say, how do we know this? L'chach anu omrim zachrenu ukravas yalev yavo bahem v'teida dafke yachid kamashar ikar brachos. So let's listen to this. Tosa says, we know. What do you mean we don't put requests in the first three brachos? Zachrenu l'chaim, right? We do this. Right? We do this in Shmona Esrei. So Tosa says it's only individual requests that we don't put in the first three and last three brachos. Individual requests belong in the middle brachos, but communal requests can be lodged in the first three and last three. Quite amazing. So the Gemara goes right there. Tanu Rabbanan. Tanu Rabbanan. Masa b'Talmud echad shelo lefnei atei b'fnei Rabbi Eliezer. So I'll say there was an episode with a Talmud who davened for the Amud in front of Rabbi Eliezer. V'haya marich yoser midai, and he was just taking too long. Amar le Talmid of Rabbeinu kama archon huzeh. So the other student said to Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi, how long is this guy going to take? So Amar Lahem, he said to them, Klum ma'arich yoser Moshe Rabbeinu. Is there anyone who davens for longer than Moshe Rabbeinu? D'chsiv, es arboim hayom ve'es arboim halayla. Moshe davened for 40 days and 40 nights. So let's say, listen, this guy is nothing compared to Moshe, right? Moshe davened 40 days and 40 nights, all right? He's drank a little bit, but what's the big deal? Another story. Shuf ma'aseh Talmudecha sheref ne'ateva b'fnei Rabbi Eliezer. There was another Talmud who came before Rabbi Eliezer, davening for the Amud. Vayemekatze yosem midai. He davened quickly. So what happened? Amalei Talmidav Kamen Katzunuzeh. Look how quickly he's davening. Amalei Klum Mekatze Yosem Moshe Rabbeinu. Is there anyone who davened the shorter and faster tefillah than Moshe Rabbeinu? D'chsiv Kel Na Rifana La. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu davened very quickly also. A very quick and succinct prayer. Kel Na Rifana La. Please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is by Miriam. Please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, heal Miriam. So we'll say, it's actually interesting what Rabbi Eliezer is just pointing out is that there are different models. There are different models in tefillah, right? And I will say there's a different time and place for everything. There's a time and place ultimately, again, for a protracted prayer, and there's a time and place sometimes for a truncated and shortened prayer, depending on circumstances, depending on people, depending on a whole variety of things. But both ultimately, again, are valid models. Amar Rav Chisda, Kol hamavaki shachim al chaveiro. Anyone who goes ahead and asks for compassion for his friend, it's actually a very beautiful idea. If ultimately, again, if somebody is requesting compassion for his friend, he doesn't have to articulate his name in the supplication. Right? Rashi says, so if you're davening for someone, you don't have to even articulate the name of the chola. Where do we know this from? Shene'emar kelna refan Allah v'lo kamidgar shma de Miriam. Because when Moshe Rabbeinu davens for his sister, he just says, please God heal her, and he does not make reference to Miriam's name. So also Rav Yosef discusses this shaila in an interesting way. He discusses what do you do about cholim. He actually talks about, somebody asked him, if I don't know someone's mother's name, so how do I go ahead and phrase the tefillah? So he said, in this case, actually, I know the mother's English name, I don't know her Hebrew name. So Ravadia said, you could use the English name, you could use Ben Sarah, or he said, actually, you could use no name at all. He says, the name in davening for a chola is not ma'akev, and he quotes this Gemara. He says, because even if you don't know the name, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows who it is that you're davening for. The ikr is to lodge a supplication on behalf of someone. That's the ikr. To have the empathy and compassion to daven for another Jew, even if you don't know their name, HaKadosh Baruch Hu surely does. Quite beautiful. So these are also, so now we're going to talk a little bit about bowing. These are the brachos that a person bows during Shmona Esrei. Ba'avos tchila v'sof, right? Avos beginning and end, which is the beginning bracha of Shmona Esrei Magin Avraham. Hodah tchila v'sof, modim, and atov shimcha l'chan ela hodos. V'im ba lasuach b'cho or lasuach b'cho bracha ubetchilas kol bracha malam denoso shelo yisha. And also, let's say a person says, I really like bowing, and I want to bow at the beginning and end of every bracha. We teach him not to do so. We teach him not to do so. So look at the last Tosas. So Tosas says, Malam dinoso shelo yishabim tomar v'yishu ma'bekach. I don't stand. Let him bow. Who cares? Right? Bow all you want. What does it matter? To which the Gemara says, V'yishlomar shelo yavo lakor divrei chacham shelo yomru kol echad machmir kimo shu rotzeh ve'in kanta chanasacham v'chashin v'hir. So let's listen to this. Tosas, what's the problem? The problem is if bowing becomes something that is done at your discretion, what's going to end up happening? There's another model where people what? don't bow at all. Shabbos say, so sometimes it's an incredible yesod. As much as you want to say, what's the big deal? Let a person bow as much as they want. Sometimes if there's not a gedder, if there's not a construct, if there's not a framework, and there's too much flexibility, so flexibility ultimately, again, could lead to an erosion of the most basic standards. So therefore, Chazal said, we'd rather be explicit in where you bow, not to have too much bowing, lest people totally do away with bowing altogether. Interesting. So, Amr Shimon Pazi. Mishum bar Rabbi Shmuel Levi, Mishum bar Kafra, head yod kimo shamarnu. So we'll say this is by a regular person. Now, by a regular person davening Shemona Esrei, these are the places where we just stated, the places where you bow. Amud Beis, Kohen Gadol b'sof kol bracha u'bracha. Kohen Gadol does in fact bow at the end of every bracha. Now, we'll say this is very interesting. Bowing is a physical form of humility. The more exalted your position, the more you must work on humbling yourself. So a regular person only needs to bow at the aforementioned intervals. A Kohen Gadol, because he has a higher station, therefore has a higher possibility or a heightened possibility of arrogance, therefore must actively work on humbling himself. Therefore he bows at the end of every single bracha. This goes ahead and ensures that he remains humble. V'hamelech, the king, Tchila kol bracha u'bracha v'sof kol bracha u'bracha. So whereas the Kohen Gadol only has to bow at the end of every bracha, the king must bow at the beginning and end of every single bracha in an effort to maintain proper humility. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Nachmani l'didi mafarshei minei Rabbi Shmuel Levi head yod kimo shamarnu. So Rabbi Yitzchak bar Nachmani has a little bit of a different version. He says head yod, like we said before, right? The head yod bows like we're used to bowing. Kohen Gadol Tchilas kol bracha u'bracha. Kohen Gadol bows at the beginning of every single bracha. Hamelech kevan shekara shuv eino zokev. But the king of say, what does he do? He bows down at the beginning of Shemona Esrei and he repeats he recites the entire Shemona Esrei in a bowed position. Once the Kohen Gadol bows, once the Melech bows, he does not get up. Where do we get there? Some Shnei Amar vahi kechal Shlomo lispalal kam melifnei mizbeach Hashem michra al birkav. So as he quotes the pasuk by Shlomo Melech, where it sounds like Shlomo Melech began to daven. When he finished davening, I should say, he went ahead and he got up from God from bowing on his knees, which sounds like Shlomo was in a bowed position the entire time that he davened. So quite amazing, quite amazing. Tan Rabbanan. So we'll say now we talk about bowing. There's different forms of bowing. Kida alapayim. So ultimately, again, the form of bowing that we call kida means ultimately, again, falling on your face, kind of like what we do by tachnun. Shene'emar vatikod basheva apayim aretz. Kriya, right? Kriya means bowing. Al birkayim means on your knees. Shene'emar michra al birkav hishtachava zu pishut yadayim v'raglayim. So I guess we would translate hishtachava as like prostration. So prostration ultimately, again, is literally an outstretching of one's hands and feet, total laying down. Prostration. Shneimar, havo nava aniva imcha v'achachal ishtachavas l'cha arza. Amri abchibrei dravhuna, chazina lu la'abaye v'rava dematzli atzluye. I saw by Abaye and Rava, dematzli atzluye. Rashi says matzli atzluye, kishanoflin al paneim in poshtin yadeim raglayim, elamatin al tzideyim. That when Abaye and Rava did prostration, right, noflin al paneim, they did not do pishla raglayim. They didn't extend their hands and feet. Rather, they just turned a little bit on their sides. Good. Tani chada hakorea bahoda hareze mishubach. So I'll say, so we have two different versions now. One version says as follows: the one who bows down during modim, this is praiseworthy. Another Bryce that says it's disgusting. Okay, so little kasha. So we'll say, which one is it? Habitchila habisof. One is talking about at the beginning of modim. One is talking about at the end of modim. The beginning of modim, it's good to bow. The end of modim, one should not bow. Rava kara bahoda tchila b'sof. Rava went ahead and he bowed at modim in the beginning and the end. So the rabbi said to Rava, why are you banging at the beginning of end of modim? Amar luhu, chazina l'Rav Nachman dekara, v'chazina l'Rav Sheshes deka'avid. So Rava said very simply, I saw Rav Nachman and Rav Sheshes conduct themselves this way, that ultimately what? They went ahead and they bowed at the beginning and end of modim. But we learned that if one bows during modim, it's disgusting. And I will say, we just said before that, remember that refers to when? The end of modim. So how is Rava doing this? To which the Gemara says, no, wrong modim. Hahi bauda sheba halal. That's talking about modim by halal. I will say ultimately again, what's modim by Hallel? Rashi points out that's Hodu la Hashem ki tov ki li'olam chazdo. We don't bow by that modim, right? So we bow by modim Shmona Esrei, beginning and end. Remember, beginning of modim is modim, end of modim is hatov shimcha l'chana ela hodos. So we bow beginning and end of that modim. When is it maguna? When is it not nice to bow? That's by modim of Hallel. Aiva Tanya Hakorea Bahoda Ubahoda Shahala Reza Maguna. But once again, another brisa. The brisa says one who bows down during modim and by modim of Hallel. This is a disgusting practice. So both say, so the brisa here mentions two modims, modim of Hallel and another modim, which we assume means the modim of Shmona Esrei. Kitanya hi Bahoda de Berachos Hamazon. That's talking about modim of what? Of benching. Both say, what's modim of benching? No delecha, right? The second paragraph of benching. We don't bow ultimately again by that paragraph of benching. So both say, so the idea being that there are times to bow, there are times not to bow. Ultimately, we'll say, so much of the beauty of Yiddishkeit is the structure and regimen that it provides for us. So we'll say, so the idea being there's a time to bow and there's a time where bowing is not appropriate. When is bowing good? Beginning of modim, end of modim. We don't bow during Hodu la Hashem Kitov of Hallel, nor do we bow during modim of Berachos Hamazon. Beautiful. Both an incredible Gemara, or Mishnah, and then Gemara. Hamispal v'tasim and ralo. Both say if a person davens and makes a mistake in their davening, this is a bad omen. A bad omen. We'll discuss what this means. And if the person is the chazan, simin ra l'sholchav. Now it's a bad omen for the tzibur, for those who he represents, because a person's messenger, right, the person's shaliach is an extension of himself. So if I make a mistake, if I'm davening and I make a mistake in my davening, that's a bad siman for me. The shliach tzibur makes a mistake in davening, that's a bad siman ultimately again for the tzibur. Both an incredible Gemara. Amra Mishnah. Amra Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, Shei Mispala ala Cholim. They say Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa that he would daven for the sick, and when he would daven, va'omer Zechai v'zemes. After he finished davening, he would say, this one's going to live, this one's going to die. So he says, how do you know this? So Amrulahem, Ishkura tfilase befi, yodiani shumekubal, ve'imlav yodiani shinu meturaf. If the tefillah flows easily, I know that my prayer has been accepted and the person will be healed. If I stumble on the words or I stumble on the prayer, I know ultimately again the tefillah has not been accepted, and Nebach, the person, is not going to have a refuah shalema. So the Gemara says as follows: Ahiyah, Amar Rav Chia, Amar Rav Chia, Amar Rav Safra, Mishum Chad Debei Rabbi. So we'll say the Gemara is asking as follows: when we said before that if you make a mistake in a bracha and Shemona Esrei, it's a bad siman, which bracha are we referring to? Is it any part of Shemona Esrei, something specific? So Rabbi say, so Rabbi Chia is saying of Safra in the name of a Tam Chacham in the yeshiva of Rabbi Ba'avos. It refers dafka to when a person makes a mistake in avos in the opening bracha of Shemona Esrei. Ike demasni la abraisa hamispel asar sheichavin esliba bekulan. So what's ideally? You should have kavanah for all of Shemona Esrei. But if you can't have kavanah all of Shemona Esrei, you should at least have kavanah in one bracha. And I will say, which is the one bracha? So I will say, what's the one bracha? Ideally, kavanah for all of Shemona Esrei. If you can only have kavanah for one bracha, at least try to have kavanah for the opening bracha of avos. Similarly, again, when we speak about that a mistake in a bracha is a bad omen for the tefillah, so what does that refer to? Ultimately, again, a mistake that is made in avos. Amru alava Rabbi Chanina. So they said about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Minahani mili. So I say, so where did Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa get this idea that Lamaisa, if the tefillah flows easily, that's a sign it's been accepted, but if he stumbles upon the words or makes a mistake, that's an indication that the tefillah has been rejected. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Damakra, Bore niv sfasayim, Shalom Shalom l'rachok u'lekarov. So I will say, quotes over here, the passage from Yeshaya, literally he has created the utterances of the lips. Created the utterances of the lips. So the idea being, that what? Amar Hashem v'rapos. I'm sorry, I didn't end of the pasuk. So Kadosh Baruch Hu has created the utterances of the lips. Peace, peace, be upon those who are far, those who are close. God has said and has healed. So in other words, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa said, when the utterances of the lips are quote unquote blessed and good, when they flow out easily, that's a sign that refuah, that healing is going to come. If I struggle with the words, stumble on the words, then that indicates that the tefillah has not been accepted. Amr Rabbi Yochanan, both saying quite a beautiful Gemara. Amr Rabbi Yochanan, Kol hanavim kulan lo nisnavu el lamasi bid lo tamid chacham, or say pragmati le tamid chacham, or lemahane tamidav min hachasav. So we'll say this beautiful Gemara. So the Nevi'im have prophesied. So we'll say the Navi is filled with beautiful brachos, right? Prophecies of the Nevi'im refer to those individuals who marry off their daughter to a Talmid Chacham. So we'll say the idea being that a person is privileged to marry off his daughter to a Talmid Chacham. That's an incredible source of bracha for a person. Lo se pragmati Talmid Chacham, someone who goes ahead and literally does business to help out a Talmid Chacham. Someone who shares of his wealth with a Talmid Chacham. So the Navi is filled with brachos for people who do these things. However, this is all beautiful brachos for those who support and help Talmidei Chachamim. About Talmidei Chachamim atzman, Rabbi say, as far as the righteous person themselves, ayin lo rasa elokim zulasecha, yasan lemechakila. So we'll say there's incredible reward. Ultimately, again, for a person who marries off his daughter to a Talmid Chacham, a person who supports a Talmid Chacham, person who goes ahead and gives a Talmid Chacham, from the benefits of his own life, but l'maisa for the Talmid Chacham himself, that reward is beyond description. The beautiful prophecies contained in the Nevi'im ultimately again are a reference to the Messianic era, Mosa Mashiach. Aval the Olam Haba, Ayin lo ras alakim zulasecha. We'll say Olam Haba, and Rabbi just to understand over here, Olam Haba in this context here refers to where you go after you die. This is very important. Remember, Olam Haba is sometimes used in different ways. Sometimes Olam Haba refers to the Messianic era. In this context, it does not refer to Messianic era. In this context, it refers to where a person goes after they die. So Olam Haba, Ayin lo ras alakim zulasecha, that no eye has ever seen or perceived besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Upliga de Shmuel, and this argues on Shmuel. The Amr Shmuel, Ein beina olam hazeh limosa Mashiach ela shibud malchias bilvad. Shmuel says, Rabbi Osai, this is interesting, that there is no distinction ultimately between olam hazeh and limosa Mashiach, between this world and the Messianic era, except shibud malchias, which Rabbi Osai is a dramatic Gemara. This is a fundamental dispute about what the Messianic era is going to look like. Is the Messianic era going to be supernatural? Or is Messianic era kind of going to be the same thing as this world with a couple of major changes? Major changes mean there'll be no oppression of Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Shmuel says, so the world will recognize Eretz Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Rabbi says, is no small feat. What is the UN going to do with all of its time? Rabbi say, can you imagine if the world goes ahead and recognizes Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael? So Rabbi says, so, and a recognition of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So according to Shmuel, otherwise life goes on. You're going to pay your mortgage. I don't know, maybe there'll be like tuition vouchers. I think that might be a function of the Messianic era. I'll say, but Lamaisa, other than that, Olam kimin hago noeg. So fundamental machlokes. So we'll say the Nevi'im, when they speak about the great reward that awaits, they're referring ultimately again to Bali Tshuva, to people who do Tshuva. Aval tzadikim gemurim, but the reward that is set aside for the purely righteous, ayin lo ras alakim zulasecha. No eye has seen it besides God. So we'll say here, Rabbi Abba says, all the reward that the Navi speaks about, that's the reward for Bali Tshuva. But for tzadikim gemurim, the reward is beyond comprehension. Upligid Rabbi Avo, and this argues on Rabbi Avo. What does Rabbi Avo say? Because Rabbi Avo said Rabbi Avo, Makom shebali tshuva omdin, tzadikim gemurim einan omdim. Rabbi Avo says the truth is Bali Tshuva are greater than tzadikim gemurim. Right? The place where the Bal Tshuva stands, the tzadik gomer cannot stand. Shneimar shalom shalom l'rachok. Sorry, shalom shalom l'rachok u'lekarov. The pasuk says we just quoted before. Peace, peace be unto he who is far and he who is close. L'rachok bereisha v'hadar l'karov. So we'll say, interestingly enough, who gets peace first? The Rachok. Who's the Rachok? The Rachok is the one who was far but is now close, i.e. the Baal Tshuva. So who gets the Shalom from HaKadosh Baruch Hu first? The one who was Rachok, the one who was far but is now close, he gets Shalom before the Karv. So the Baal Tshuva is even greater than the Tzaddik Gomer. So we'll say fundamental machlokas. Who's greater? Who's greater? The person who didn't sin, the person who never sinned, the Tzaddik Gomer, or the person who sinned but then found the courage to come back. So it's a fundamental machlokes as to who occupies the more exalted status. Rabbi Yochanan will explain this as saying, no, my rachok, what does rachok refer to? Rachok doesn't refer to the Baal Tshuva. Rather, it refers to shahaya rachok midvar avera miikara. He was far away from sin from the beginning. Umay karov, shaya karov l'dvar avera v'nisrach imenu hashta. It refers to one who was close to sin, but is now far from sin. So I will say, so fundamental machlokes ultimately again, as to who goes ahead and occupies a more exalted status in the eyes of God. Is it the tzaddik gomer who never sinned? Is he the highest level? Or is it ultimately the Baal Tshuva, the person who did sin, but found the courage to rehabilitate himself and bring himself back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who occupies the more exalted status? Fundamental machlokes. So also we'll have to stop over here. Again, the best part of the Gemara is still to come. And Miras Hashem will begin, and Miras Hashem with this tomorrow morning.